Early. Going live. And I think we're live, Jesse.
All right.
Yeah, we're live.
All right. Well.
All right, Jesse. Well, welcome to your first live stream.
Well, I'm really excited to do this. One of the reasons we're doing this is from a studio called Podstream Studios Times Square, which I'm a partner in. As you can see, we are in the heart of Times Square, so we wanted to mess around with a little bit of live stream while also doing some questions. My beautiful co-host is, of course, Nick Karp. You may know Nick as a wonderful, wonderful photographer who's photographed so many people. If you're not following him, what's your at on Instagram again, Nick?
My at is Nick Karp Photos, Nickkarp Photos.
There you are. Yeah, Nick's a great photographer. He's going to help me out by asking the questions and kind of running this thing. But yeah, I want to do more live streaming in the future. And now that we have this awesome studio and we're all vaccinated, we're going to have access to this and be able to do this a little bit more often. So, Nick, what are we? Oh, I know what we're doing. We're going to answer some questions from my brand new Discord first. So if you don't know, they're in my forum and starting to be populated in my videos. There's a link to a Discord where we're having lots of fun chats. It's all about this channel. I'm trying to keep it as high quality as my forum. So if you're not a member yet, I highly suggest that you join the Discord. But yeah, Nick, what questions do we got from the Discord?
So let's start for Victor. I've asked this before, but all pre-saves are all pre-saves still useless? DistroKid's Hyperflow has pre-saves and follows, and you've mentioned in newer videos how pre-saves can help future listens.
Okay, so I think I should be clear because, unfortunately, we always have to navigate the hyperbole that works on YouTube with some things, and I always try with my videos to really be as forthright and real as possible. But I think with my pre-save one, I kind of dunked so hard I broke the back rim thing. Pre-saves are not good because they don't harness when you could be getting attention, and you get very few clicks from them as it is when you do them, and there's nothing for people to listen to. And as well, they don't help you for playlist consideration for that song. But pre-saves after the release are out are a bit of data that Spotify can see and do help set your next songs up for success. So if you do get that engagement and you help that song grow, that is a good thing. So what I always advise is that you use the tools, whether that's show.co, ToneDen, Hyperfollow from DistroKid. Using those are a good thing. Did I answer all parts of that question? I'm sometimes bad with only answering one part.
I think you did. There is another question from Victor. I'm someone who rarely despises Twitter and TikTok for various reasons.
Rarely or really despises?
Really.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, really despises Twitter and TikTok for obvious reasons. I prefer to go hard on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. Is that okay, or am I still missing out big time?
So here's the thing. Obviously, if you're the type of person who can do every social media thing and do it all, everything is going to go better because you have more outlets that you can bring into everything. But with that said, most people's personalities only allow for you doing certain things and to do certain things well. I don't think you're missing out, especially if you're in certain genres. Now, if you're a hyper pop artist and you're not doing TikTok right now, it's going to be a lot harder to build a following than it would be. But, so which ones was he saying he doesn't do?
He doesn't do TikTok and Twitter.
So I think that the big thing is Twitter has a lot of great tools because you can find people who are adding at certain people. You can add other people in your community and alert them to your existence and things like that. So there is good tools, but I would also argue a lot of time that yes, TikTok is way more performative and you have to develop all this content and all this stuff, but Twitter takes so little effort. Honestly, when I was doing more promotions on Twitter, I could often just do it for the time that I was waiting for the subway in the morning and at night, and I'd have gotten all my work done and scheduled some tweets for the week. It's really not that much effort to get a decent amount out of Twitter when you're just starting out.
All right. This is from Shimdog on Discord.
I love everybody with a name with dog in it. Since we all know I love to call people dog.
If I'm in an alternative band that's starting to consistently release singles every 6 weeks online, any tips, insight on when my band should start tapping into live shows in a city like New York City as an important way to get more fans? Should we concern ourselves with live shows before or after hitting 1K monthly listeners?
Yeah, you should concern yourself with live shows from day one. The big thing is now that people have gotten so into online because, we were all forced to stay inside and this was the only way to promote, everybody's like, live shows are ineffective. You're only talking to 20 people at a time or 30 people at a time. But I argue that those people who you talk to at live shows are often some of the most important people that you actually build real bonds with, because we build bonds in person. We have to remember the other thing about live music. Loud music is literally one of the things that best makes people feel music. One of the reasons, and this is a pet peeve of mine as a record producer for many years, people are like, you're so much better live. And it's like, the power of actually really playing music live often makes people think that it's better because they've never heard music at such a loud volume. And it really does affect it. I mean, I'm sure we all have had that experience of seeing a band live and then going back and listening to the record and thinking, man, this band sucks afterwards. That's not usually, I think, the record producer's fault as much as that live music and being around other people while you're enjoying it is a hell of a drug. So using that drug to one, convert people into liking your music, and two, meeting new people, which I think is equally as important, is crucial. Now, I mean, the funny thing is when we say this with New York City, Nick will tell you, since Nick and I work together all the time, I'm obsessed with seeing when concerts are coming back. And so when to do it? Well, it seems like the concert venues are pretty big, booked up with big acts for a minute here, and they haven't even started yet. But I really think you should get started playing live as soon as possible. Even if it's before you have a ton of people in your audience, I think it's good to get warmed up so that when opportunities are happening for you, you're not going up there cold. It's best to fail in front of 7 people and get good at it and get your sea legs than it is to do that when people are really into you already. Just ask artists like Grimes who did it.
All right, this question's from Adam. I'm hitting the reset button on my music career, wanting to release new music under a new stage name. Will the new release strategy, single screen video on week 1, lyric video on week 3, music video on week 5, still be applicable for me since I'm starting again? Or should I release as many songs as possible within a month?
So this is probably a version of the question I've been asked the most that I haven't made a video on, which probably should give me a hint. So here is my thing. Everybody has a different thing with this in that they feel a different level of disposability with their music. And what I mean by disposability is some people are like, I get so many comments on this channel that are like, I wrote 90 songs in the last 90 days. Well, it's like, well, pick the 5 best that you wrote in the last 90 days and put those 5 up to get started so that if people love your first song, then they can get really addicted and go down the rabbit hole with your music because you have a few songs up. I think in general, it is always best to put a few songs up, even if they are not your best material. But everybody has a different level of preciousness with what they put out. So it's a very hard answer to do. But here is my thing, is maybe it's best to talk about the risk reward. The risk is I think of my favorite band, the 1975. They kept out for a while a few songs from before they really found themselves, let's say. One particularly is called Antichrist, and they are berated at all times to play this song even though they're that song is fucking trash. I kind of agree, it's kind of fucking trash. Anywho, so a big thing is every song you do put out can potentially be a song you're annoyed by your audience by for the rest of your life, if things go well. And it's not the worst problem to have, but what I will also say to that is that it really does make a difference if your song is hitting, that people can bite into the apple deeper and they can keep getting more addicted to your music, and if you have good songs that people are hearing, it goes so much further. I mean, there's this funny thing. There's this act called Henrik the Artist, I want to say, that like I fell in love with like their songs, but they had like 4 songs on the thing, and like you forget to have a relationship with the person like when you only have that many to go through. And like then I went back like recently because I like heard one of the songs on shuffle. I'm like, wow, they never put out anything more. It's like I never formed an addiction. I forgot about them for 2 years. And it's like I wasn't able to form a deeper addiction, but if they had had a deeper back catalog, I could have probably been listening for a few more months to get me the next content they put out, if they had put it out faster than 2 years, I should say. So that is like the decision you weigh. And yeah, I think a lot of the time you do want to get some material up if you have it onto your page to try to have something for people to bite into.
We have a little bit of an audio issue. I just wanted to fix that real quick. Yep. I didn't want to interrupt you mid-sentiment.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we're getting a little clippy clip.
A little clippy clip.
Yeah, the trick is here, people, is this is the maiden voyage in the studio and with our little switcher.
Said with headphones, it's a little loud. So let's see if that fixed it.
Okay.
All right. So next question is from Cassius Dead. How important is it to have legal down at the beginning? Where should a brand new artist or band drop? Just SoundCloud, or start off guns blazing on everything?
So legal down. I went through this with my video with the name that you use. That's really the only thing you need to do aside from having an operating agreement if you have multiple band members. Operating agreement, really, the second you put music out, I kind of really think this is another one of those videos like I'd love to make, but that no one will watch because I've seen what you all watch over the past year. But an operating agreement is a really serious thing because it really does solve problems down the road. If you think of it this way, so for example, running this studio, one of the things I do is I make a list of what is someone's responsibility and what is not someone's responsibility. Same thing with an operating agreement if you're in a band. Is you gotta say, for example, a lot of bands choose, even though there's 1 to 2 people really writing the song, to divide the royalties evenly between everybody who plays on the performance of that song or who wrote it at the time. You gotta write certain things down. So if we're talking about legal, those operating agreements aren't always signed contracts, but they are a basis that's established that can be held up in a court of law that you don't need to do a thing. If you look for these operating agreements, they're riddled with it. I believe Bobby Borg's books on the music business actually have some templates in it, if I remember correctly. May have that wrong, but regardless, Bobby's books are very good. So legal-wise, just having the name down, I will reiterate to people yet again that, streaming software and digital software allows your songs to be copyrighted. The biggest fear-mongering people have is copyrighting their music and like whether they need to have it or not. I could go much deeper on that some other time, but I really don't like to talk about legal things because I'm not a lawyer and lawyers should be the ones who do that. Okay, what was the second part of his question there?
Where should a brand new artist or band drop? Just SoundCloud, or start off guns blazing everywhere? Spotify, YouTube, Apple.
So I actually do think that you should proliferate everywhere. And by proliferate everywhere, I mean really you're putting it on your DistroKid, which is going to upload it to all the DSPs, put it on SoundCloud, put it on Bandcamp. And yeah, because like honestly, I think like one of the biggest things is you want to get feedback for your music. Like you want to start to understand what the ecosystem is. And truly, like even if you're not going to change your music depending on what people say, just starting to understand your music in the context that other people talk about. One of the biggest things you'll hear artists talk about is that like somebody's like, oh, you sound like this group. And they may have never heard that group before, but that becomes a big thing for them. And like, understanding all sorts of things that happen when you put your music out in the world is good. People choose to listen to music on different, what do we call these, outlets. And like, I think the feedback you get on SoundCloud, if you're like a person who, here's a good example. let's say you make kind of obscure electronic music, not really EDM, but like that, you can get totally different feedback from the type of people who use Bandcamp, the type of people who use Spotify, and the type of people who use SoundCloud. Now, SoundCloud might be useless for a punk band, but like the feedback you get as a punk band from Bandcamp users and Spotify users when they like tweet at you or write things or Instagram DM you is often totally different because Bandcamp just has such an obsessive music nerd audience. So I think you put it everywhere.
All right. This is from Pop Locker on the Discord. What is considered the best practice in terms of hiring staff to sell merchandise at shows? I have merchandise I want to sell, but I don't know how to go about hiring a responsible individual to sell them at venues where I perform. How much should they be compensated, and what else should I watch out for?
I mean, it's funny because, like, don't you feel like this is true that, like, most of the time the merch person is, like, your best friend or, like, the person who's never going to get money, like, maybe you're going to give them a drink ticket? I mean, Nick's the better person to answer this. You've been a merch person a lot.
I was a merch person for a little bit. It's someone who's responsible with money, I would say would be the first.
Yes, please.
And I would also go ahead and say someone you trust, obviously. I've heard plenty of horror stories on bigger tours. I'm sure you have as well, Jesse. But to go back to it, yeah, someone you trust for sure. Someone that's good at money. Someone that you can count that can count inventory. If you're a bigger artist. Jesse, you want to continue?
Yeah, I mean, but let's say this. I imagine since you're asking this question, you're probably like, hey, I don't have that. So if you don't have that, I think, if it's a night out and you can't get somebody to do it for a favor, it really is somewhere around minimum wage that you get somebody to sit there and do the merch for you. Now, I will also say this. One of the things I argue in Get More Fans is a charismatic merch person can sell the hell out of that merch. I mean, I have watched so many times certain bands have like a merch person who basically makes the band make 3 times the money they should because they start conversations with people. They know how to engage people and get them to buy things, and it really does make a huge difference. When I managed Man Overboard, they had one particular merch guy who was just so funny and great at starting conversations with people that it really did skyrocket their merch at sales way past what many of the other groups that were way bigger than them were doing.
I'd like to also add that good tip jars and like good catchy things that will appeal to someone's eyes, especially a good conversationalist, as Jesse said, will definitely increase sales. You gotta be personable, this person is representing your band. So make sure they're also a good person. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the next question. Hold on. There's a bunch this guy asked. The musical projects I tend to get involved in usually have a lot of variety from track to track. Since I'm in the early stages, I release one song at a time instead of albums or EPs at once, but a problem I run into when pitching to places like Submit Hub that offer feedback for rejections is I often get responses like, "This isn't a single." Usually based on the rest of their response, I take it to mean this isn't a banger or this isn't a lead single. In some cases, they're right, but not all of my songs will be bangers or obvious lead singles, and I still need to pitch them to places and give them their own release windows at this point in my trajectory. And I'm not interested in only making quote-unquote bangers. Is this a problem that can be fixed by addressing it in my quick pitch? Also, is there a problem that is inherent to releasing variety of music in the early stages of my career? Varied music, I'm sorry. My question is not about the validity of Submit Hub. I'm aware of the criticisms, but I'm still in the process of assessing it for my own situation.
Okay, a lot of polls here.
Yeah,
so let's first talk about variety music. Variety music can be your greatest asset, and it can also be a major pain in your fucking ass. Because one of the most interesting things, if you watch the last video, is Spotify is now allowing you to tag multiple genres in your submissions, and that is because people blend music so much. Like, I think of there's I'm so bad with song names, but there's that one from Rina Sawayama that is like a fucking metal. New metal pop song, And like, yeah, like which one would you pitch it to? Now, I would probably pitch it pop because new metal audiences are going to say that's pussy shit or whatever. But like, I do think the biggest problem we often have with like when you're doing genre diverse is that you're not an expert enough to know how to find the outlets that are going to give you good feedback. And what I mean by that is like, so when you're searching Submit Hub, truly, and this goes for all the other things like Submit Hub, I sometimes forget what they're all called because all of them have fucking terrible names. But like, people spread themselves too thin. I think the way that the people who have the best success on Submit Hub really target the outlets and say, this is a good outlet for me. And some people, there's no good outlet for them. I mean, blogs are really fucking dying. And while I could go on and on about how important blogs still are, I do think that the biggest thing is you're getting feedback from people who shouldn't really be commenting on your music because they wouldn't be susceptible to it anyway. So one of the things like I think it is that like Submit Hub inherently is people who are not going to understand your music well. So and this is a hard thing. There's so many startups that offer feedback on your music and almost all of them are trash or bots and AI that are just taking your money. So I think like this is a tough thing and that it's hard to get good feedback from these things for lots of artists. Now we were talking about your bangers versus your album tracks thing. One of the things I think is a tough thing, and I talk a lot this about when I do the one-on-one consultations with artists, is that like you may want a song out in the world, you may know it's going to change people, but context is important. And so like I would argue, I'm a real into moody music ass motherfucker. There is lots of tracks that may be my favorite songs, but they really do work in an album context and not as a single. I think I'm actually a person who really, like one of my favorite bands, Mew, has singles. They have really poppy songs, but some of my most favorite songs from them are just the moody tracks on the record that I want to vibe out to. But we have to accept that just as like, your pajamas are not what you would wear to a first date, to make a good impression, you have to accept that some songs are first date clothes and some songs are pajamas on the couch after people get to know you better. And that really is a fact of life. Like there's just no way of getting around that. Like not everything is the best first impression to make somebody like you. And we have to look at tracks that way, that, releasing those songs and keeping some of them to be your album tracks is a big part of this. Did I answer all the parts of that question?
I think you did, Jesse.
Okay.
All right, going back to Victor, another basic live stream question. Is show.co still the best site for sharing your music?
Okay, here's one that I should say. People have been talking to me and seeming to say that show.co has gotten a little weird since they updated. I'm going to be honest, I've been so busy writing strategies and opening studios that I have not been to the site to start a campaign because I have other people do it, and I really need to actually do that so I can update you guys on it. So I'm going to concede that I've been ignoring that, and I'm going to also say I'm going to update the forum and the Discord on that very soon.
All right, well, here's the last question on the Discord. I know collabs are a great way to grow your audience, especially post-release after songs have been performing well to add more fuel to the fire. We've never collaborated before, but we love to have a bigger artist than us. We're at 60K monthly listeners feature to help promote it. How big of an artist is realistic to add? And how do you go about asking their management? Most of our target features are with people I already comment on and engage with their engage with their content. So I'm already a fan, which I hope to would be more organic. Any help here would be much appreciated. And that is from Crystal Casino Band.
Cool. So here's the thing. Reaching a little higher than you, even a good deal higher than you, has helped explode a lot of people's careers. I think with features, a lot of the time, you shoot for the stars. Now, but I should also say this, but I will argue all day, every day, and I think most of you will agree with me, that we hear a lot of collaborations that are fucking lame. Some are magical. I mean, what would we do without a Flo Rida song in the verses with a Kesha on the chorus? I mean, how would we ever live without those? But I think it's much more important to often try to find the person that you really have a good idea that really feels like their style will complement the song you're working on, and then reach out to that person, because a good song above good monthly playlist numbers is always going to win out. So that would be my first thing. Now, as far as like how big to reach out, yes, I mean, most management companies are going to ignore it unless you have an in. If you can get an intro, you have any connection to this person to get in the door, you do it. I mean, one of the things I could say that I see all day long is like, one of the parts of my day job is I have to reach out to people who are like blowing up and famous, and I have to try to get somebody interested in working with somebody I work with. And you know, the biggest thing is having somebody who's a friend of a friend grease that palm a little bit or write the intro. That does a world of a good. So think about that first. Secondly, a really good pitch. Hey, we have 60,000 monthly listeners. Hey, you know what? You're doing great. Like, that's a really good number at this point. There should be some people who are interested in you. Talking about the metrics, talking about the promotion that'll be done, talking about what you would do with the track, sending along the song especially. Those are all things that could really do. Or if the ask is that you want to get in a room and write together, that's a good ask, because you know, a lot of the time the managers, they're always looking for I mean, actually, here's a really good cheat code for this, is managers who have artists who are highly collaborative are always looking for new collaborations. So when you slide into their email and make their life easier that they may have found an answer, you're much more likely to get that email returned if you send some tracks along and say like, yeah, we're looking to write together, because write together may mean that artist puts their name bigger than yours. And while that may not be what you're intending on, that can be a big opening in your career. I mean, I can't think of how many people's careers have started because they were not the big name on the track, but that opened doors for them when that track blew up.
I can think of one off the top of my head. Bruno Mars is.
Oh yeah, that's actually a great point. I was in the studio with Bruno Mars before he was a big solo act, when he was just a writer, and he was this charismatic short guy that I was like, wow, this guy, like, really, he's really got something, man.
All right, let's go to the Facebook forum from Dimitri. How can I move my catalog 3 songs from one distribution company to another? Is it safe?
Yeah, it's safe and people do it all day. And to be honest with you, there's like FAQs on every distributor's website on how they particularly do it, but really it is the thing. You don't lose plays, you just lose a few days of access. You take it down off of one distributor and then you put it up on the other distributor. There's a ISRC-unique identifier code on every song, and then it makes it so that you don't lose your play numbers, which I know everybody's very concerned with. But yes, even when big artists do this all the time, like you may have went to one of your favorite artists' pages at some point and been like, WTF dog, like there's no songs here, what the hell? That's usually that they're moving distributors.
All right, from Richard. I've recently viewed the Building a Community video, and I've noticed it did not mention any sort of in-person promotion. Social media is great, but there's still value in going to shows and handing out. But is there still value going to shows, handing out CDs or business cards with QR codes? I've been introduced to a lot of bands like With Confidence and Sleep On It this way back at Warped Tour, but those days are gone. Would I be making a fool out of myself by trying this? In my head, this would be a face-to-face interaction that can help build a fan base. Or does this make me look like a clown?
No, and that was something I overlooked in that video, is that like when I was talking about community, I really should have said online, because that's what I was talking about. No, as I said at the top of this stream, in-person connections are the best in-person connections. In-person connections are the best connections. You can set off way more of a lasting impression by being in front of somebody compared to just seeing like Chihuahua Dick 97 online or whatever it is. Like, truly, you are not making a fool of yourself, and this is how I do it. Even still with bands. Now, the other thing about this channel is I've largely made this channel under a time where I couldn't tell people to go outside. I've never made a video about live music a single time, which I'm going to fix, because nearly all but, what was it? Yeah, about 10 weeks of this channel that I was actually making videos were when we couldn't do that. So don't think I don't endorse in-person connections. I talk about it a lot inside the book Get More Fans, of like what you can be doing there and how much you can make impressions on people and do great things with in-person interactions. Okay, do we have anything from the chat?
Yeah, we do have a bit from the chat. Let's start
Nice.
with...
Well, that actually looks like a good amount, Jesus.
Yeah, let's start with Ashira Official. Hey Jesse, my single is set to be released on June 10th. As a new artist, what are some key things I can do to promo leading up to my single release, even though I have a zero fan base?
So the zero fan base things comes up a lot, and there's like a lot of temptation for me to, Jesus, I'm like spitting. Damn, this motherfucker's spitting. There's a lot of temptation to be like, this is what my channel is all about. But when you say as a new artist, I know it's really, really, really intimidating when you have zero people who are watching you so far. So what you do, and I think is the helpful answer, is the lower the number of people you have watching you, the more you have to value one-to-one interactions. Like a thing I've said to many people is that, like, you know, for the first 9 months of this channel, every single day I would just interact with people on message boards all day and paste my videos in. And then it got to be a point where I'd go on those message boards and somebody else was posting my videos, and then I didn't have to do that anymore. When you're at the start of this, you have to think about how you have one-to-one interactions with people all day. And I even see artists who are doing very big numbers who still feel this way. Like, there's this video that of City Morgue when they were like doing literally songs with like millions of streams in their video, where they were still like, all we do all day is interact with fans on Instagram and say things because it revs them up and it gets them to build their relationship. What you got to do at this point that's different from later points is value every single interaction and understand that maybe every 5 people you talk to isn't going to click that link, but slowly but surely, if you got something good, it will build up.
All right, this is from Laurel Sane. Hey Jesse, big fan of your channel. I'm starting a new band and we will be releasing a 4-song EP soon. What would be the most effective way of promoting the EP?
Well, the 4-song EP, put out those 4 songs as singles is the most effective thing, and don't put it out as an EP until all 4 have been released as a single. This is the tough thing, is that like I really am dedicated to trying to give people good answers when I do these things. But this is what the whole channel is about, is like, I've been talking about this for months, is like every nuance of what you do with that 4-song EP. And like, I kind of hate to say, like, there's this playlist on the channel page, how to get people to notice your music. Like, that is kind of the answer and kind of my advice. But I think what I could also say that may be helpful, an EP is an event. And like, one of the things we are often talking about is that there's this balance of trying not to annoy people while also trying to get people's attention. And you know, when you put out a 4-song EP, it's time to call it your birthday and be that person who's resharing, being extra, and bragging a little. So feel free to take your time to do that, but also spread that thing out and don't just put out a 4-song EP. We live in a singles world. Live in that world with us.
All right, from Mostly Leg, great name.
What's the name?
Mostly Leg.
Oh, no, yeah, I like that. I like that.
Hey Jesse, love the channel. I'm a newish to LA and I want to find a great band to join. Any advice?
Yeah, you know, I feel so bad for people trying to find other musicians to work with right now, because like, I think, you know, there's this book I read that talked about like chaos periods where like things have been jumbled up. Like for a while it was like, yeah, you go on Craigslist. And you know, the funny thing is like the guy who founded DistroKid actually tried to make a site that would like obsolete Craigslist. And you could find musicians who were playing with, and then he was like, yeah, I'll do this other thing, and it kind of was successful. And he threw the musician thing, finding each other thing away. It is so fucking hard right now to find other people to play with, and it should be so easy. I have no idea why people can't fix this problem with a good app, but I think it's also that it takes a lot of awareness and monetization. My best advice, though, is that you really need to just let people know that you're looking for this. Here's the thing. Every day I talk to somebody who's just broken up with another musician, and I don't mean in a sexual way. I mean that they've just thrown somebody out of their band, or they're no longer collaborating with this person. That the real thing is you got to let the people know in your community. You got to get involved in chat rooms and Facebook groups and let people know that you're looking, and don't be shy about it. Like, hey, here's shit I've done in the past. Here's things I'm really looking to find somebody new. Does anybody know? Those posts are not things that are frowned upon in internet communities. So I would really, really, really push it. And also I would say this too. I'm a part of a couple music discords. I see those posts all day, trying to find the discords that like you can exist in. I'm very new to like doing a lot of time in Discord, and I'm seeing that all over the place.
If I can also add,
yeah, please.
Jamcard is a really cool website that hired me to do something once, and it's a lot of studio musicians go there to look for work for albums and stuff. But I'm sure it's a way to connect to musician to musician to jam out and play some music and stuff. You're gonna recommend being an experienced player. A lot of those people are very, very, very talented, but. Yeah, check out Jamcard if you haven't. This is from the Royal Chief. What up, Jesse? I operate a J. Cole type space. Want to employ a release strategy, but thought it may be better suited as a lyricist to release an additional song or two with the single. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a J. Cole space, hip-hop releases, particularly like minimalist modern hip-hop, is just... I don't like the word disposable, because disposable sounds like it's garbage. But you're able to make music faster, and people really do just crave a larger quantity of it. Now, do I think that also in this genre that quality is highly, highly, highly rewarded? Yes. And do I also think, to the point of that Rick Rubin essay I made, there are very few artists who are served by not trying to just make a song more exceptional, especially if it's a good idea, than putting in promotion time and rubber of the road time on mediocre songs. Like, the biggest mistake a lot of people make is that they're like slaving away over a song with low susceptibility. And if you don't know the concept of susceptibility, watch my video on Facebook ads and why I don't like them, but like I go through it there heavily, and susceptibility is increased when you vet the songs. You go, this is the best one. You really try to find the ways that you can make it as good as possible and make it work. So yes, I would argue that in this genre, releasing more and airing more on the 6-week side of releasing songs and like doing a higher clip of them can really, really do you some favors, but much more than almost any other genre I can think of. But with that, I also still do feel that the biggest thing right now is that like when you're in a world of 60,000 songs being uploaded to Spotify a day, trying to find how you do higher quality things and spending time to like outdo people in the arms race may be a better use of your time.
All right, this is from Trey. Pros and cons of having certain songs be exclusive to a single platform, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, versus every song on all DSPs always.
I kind of went through this in my video on Russ's idea of releasing a song every week, which is that when you're flooding the zone with that much, it starts to be that it's just not special anymore that you're releasing things. People are just like, this is a fucking loudmouth who's always fucking talking. Just like you start to zone out when your uncle's always talking about Trump and how great he is and says it all day, and eventually it's just like, it sounds like a fucking drone. you become a drone when you release too much. Like, very much in line with that last question, part of what is a special spot, and like, I will say this, like, you see Billie Eilish, Youngblood, all these people concentrating on a song every 2 months. I haven't measured it and fact checked it, but somebody told me this is also what Olivia Rodrigo's doing, who's arguably the most ascendant artist of the past few months. But I haven't fact checked that yet, so I don't want to say that for sure. Anywho, what I'm saying here is there's two places that reward quantity. SoundCloud rewards that because people are just constantly doing things and they're discovering through hashtags. So the more you're posting, the more your discoverability can be increased. Can being the ideal word. I have to go far down that one day, and I've been wanting to make that video forever. Anywho, but Spotify does not reward putting up a song more than every 4 weeks, and people's attention spans don't reward it. So I think that that's the biggest balance you have to do. So, and then I would point you to a lot of my answers from the previous question.
All right, this is from Inhale Marty. How long do you recommend spacing out your releases between singles?
Well, that point, all right, this is what I'm gonna have to do. There is one of my most popular videos of my release strategy is the thing 6 to 8 weeks. This is a cornerstone of this channel. In fact, if anything, I'd say that this is like probably what I'm best known for at this point, so.
All right, well, from the Royal Chief, advice on shows, things you should do afterwards, how to follow up with people, how to maximize pre, during, and post-show.
Okay, yeah, let's vibe on this a little since this is something I haven't discussed at all. Okay, pre-shows, I think the way people think about booking shows is often wrong. And I should say this too. There's times you're gonna get opportunity shows. Opportunity shows are you just got a good opening slot for X artist. Obviously you should take those when offered nearly all the time, except if you're overexposing yourself to the point that no one's gonna show up. But really what I would think about with every show you do is how often you can do it with what your life allows, that you can be a major presence at other concerts that are relevant to you, that are close in your community, where you can be flyering, meeting people, and doing this. Part of the best thing about a show to me, and to the artists I see that often break from live performances, is that this is an eventful thing. Just like the lyric video and the single screen video give you a reason that you could say, hey, people, pay attention to me. A flyer for a show is a reason you can go to a bigger artist concert and say, hey, pay attention to me. Let's talk about my music. Let me tell you about what I do. You like stuff like this? Maybe you'll like this. You may like what I do. So to me, like, that's one of the biggest things is I would plan shows about how often I can effectively do that and promote things like that. And then, during the show, the most no-brainer thing that I see that people do that is like a simple thing that I don't know why it's not proliferated is the thing of literally saying from the stage, you're my people, would love to talk to you after the show. And like make it so that the shyest people, who are often usually the people who feel music the most, feel comfortable talking to you and building a deeper relationship with you. Secondly, everybody who interacts with you, especially if you're playing in a city you don't usually play, open up a goddamn spreadsheet. If they've made a mention of you in a story, if they made any contact, everybody you can get a contact for, make a spreadsheet of where they attended the show, and the next time you're doing it, make sure that you have messaged them something before you come to town the next time. Can't wait to see them and all their friends, to hint, hint, hint. They could buy some extra tickets, have a good time, do the thing. That is literally some of the things I see people sleep on the most.
All right, thanks for this, Jesse. What metrics do you think are most useful for measuring long-term growth on Spotify? Streams per listener, save rates are mentioned, but curious of others you think matter.
My take on this is all of this is too messy, and people who focus on data and milestones, you're thinking of the wrong goal. The right goal is constant growth and maintaining people's attention through the consistent, sustained promotion. But like truly, as long as you're keeping things going that way, like things are going good. You know what? Fuck it. I don't like to do this, but I'm gonna do it this way. Right now, we have one of the most great upheaval moments in behavior we're ever seeing as a society. We just had people who were literally inside for an entire fucking year plus, now going outside and doing things. So to lift the curtain back, maybe not all of you know this, but I am a podcast producer by day. I produce some very popular podcasts. Here's the funny thing with podcasts. Let's say around November, to get into the top 200, it took you 175,000 downloads to get into the top 200. You can now get your podcast in the top 200 with 60,000 downloads because no one's listening to podcasts compared to what they were doing over the winter. Metrics and numbers are always sliding around. Different genres are played in different times of year, different listening habits. Focusing on a certain number is not the point. Focusing on growth is the point. Don't fixate on numbers, don't fixate on things. Fixate on sustainably keeping the growth happening.
Here's a question that I like. What should you say, what should you say, do, bring, not say, not do when meeting with a label that you actually want to be on?
Yeah, I like this one too. There's a whole section in Get More Fans where I talk about this. I call like a lot of them like music industry red flags. One of the biggest ones I see that like literally is like the equivalent of like the person who wants to get married after 10 minutes into a first date is like the person who says like, we're just not that good at business. Like, that's basically like saying, let's get married and I have no sexual organ. Like, a whole piece of the puzzle is missing. You have to be a person who seems like they want to be in a good relationship with a good team. Not like, hey, we're never going to hang out on Friday night because it's man's night and I'm going to the man cave. Like, whatever the hell people do. Like, people want a well-rounded partner. So when you're talking to a label, and I kind of got into this a little bit in the management thing, it's like you want to tell them how you're a good partner, how you're going to go on an adventure together, how you're going to work hard, and how you're looking for it. You know, I haven't promoted this yet, but like I just had this audio documentary I produced on the label Vagrant Records come out, and we have 11 more parts of it coming out in the coming weeks, and it's all about all these bands who are humongous, top of the world. Dashboard Confessional, you know, Census Fail, who's the gold record that's behind me during most of the videos. It's the lessons of their career. And one of the things you see time and time again is what these acts who really, really are doing things is they're working hard for themselves. And what attracted the biggest management companies and the biggest labels like they did is the idea that like they were already on an adventure and then it would be, do you want to come on the ship and go? But they only want people who would get on the ship and pull the fucking lines on the, what do you call the things like that?
The sail?
That's the thing I'm looking for. Thank you, Nick. Pull the rope on the sail. They want somebody who's going to contribute just as much as them. And the big thing I think people miss in what happens in a label meeting or a management meeting and everything is it's not saving your lost ship. It's not propping your sailboat up to make everything go good. It's that you're joining an adventure together, and that's the language you have to think of. And truly, it really is a thing of like, you know, I encourage people, even like when the worst label invites them, if they haven't done a lot of meetings with labels, I always say go do it. Because you have to learn some mindset things. Just like if you're a person who's dated a lot, I'm sure you look back on your early dates at being very bad, and then you're like, hey, I got kind of good at that thing. Hey, like you get more confidence, you start to get what the mindset is. And the mindset is that you're going on an adventure and hopefully this person's going to join you, not please save our fucking ship.
This is from Francisco. Would you say a follow is more valuable on Spotify, Instagram, or somewhere else for building a long-term fan?
Give it to me one more time.
Would you say a follow is more valuable on Spotify, Instagram, or somewhere else for building a long-term fan?
So I don't have an educated answer, and I don't really like to say things that I don't have data on or a lot of thought on, and this is not something I've thought on, but my free-form riff will be this, is where are you going to keep people engaged? The follow doesn't happen because a platform is more sticky than another. And granted, when you do look at data, where the most sticky follow is? It's actually Facebook, but it's also the follow you're least likely to be seen on unless you're paying for it when you pay to get your messages out. What matters is where you're going to keep people engaged. People keep following you because they have a relationship with you that they want to continue. Now, I will say this. The follow on Spotify, seemingly, especially if they keep going where trends are going, is going to notify everybody who listened to you a lot that you have new music. Seemingly for free, I would imagine, is where Spotify is going. Could be wrong. So, obviously, if you're a person who's going to release music regularly and not, 4 years later when they've graduated college and they're no longer as interested in music because they're popping out kids and you were making EDM bangers about partying and getting wild, a Spotify follow seems to be like what I would put the most value on, but there's a lot of variables to this.
Sorry, I popped for that. How important is an album promotion before the release? I've had an album freshly out, not great traction. I believe in the music. Is it too late for me to push it further?
No, I think an album is not dead. And also, here's the other real secrets. Everybody is getting hip to re-releasing the record in accordance to the way you should with singles, pulling it down, calling it remastered. I joke, I did a campaign with somebody a year or something ago, where we literally pretended that the whole reason we were releasing is that it was so good that we had to remaster it. But really, it was just that they realized they should have been releasing Spotify singles and putting out more singles in advance. You can promote a 5-year-old album now by spinning the right thing of saying, this is really touching people right now. It's really been coming through it. And yes, some people will fact check it and call your bullshit, but some people won't. Nothing's ever dead, but there is a more effective way to do it, which is don't put the album out till the end of after you've put out all the single-worthy songs and tried to appeal to algorithms and the way people's attention spans work.
I would like to add that Dominic Fike, pretty big artist, I would say. His whole gimmick was he had his thing on SoundCloud for a week, took it down immediately and put it back up on Spotify with a proper album release. Makes no sense, but it does.
Well, it's something for people to talk about. It's a story.
Absolutely. This is from Pull the Curtain. What about when you lose momentum? Last year I dropped an EP for the first time. We landed 2 editorials. We maxed out at 10K monthly listeners. Haven't released anything else. I'm kind of stuck.
I'm sorry. You got to give it to me again, yet again.
Oh, you're good. What about when you lose momentum? We maxed out at 10K monthly listeners. I haven't released anything since, and I'm kind of stuck. Last release was a year ago.
Well, I think some of this is answering its own question, which is your momentum was caused by releasing music. This is why, when I talk about consistent, sustained promotion being the most important thing, is that here's a better answer. We have to remember, and if you see music through any prism but this, you're seeing it wrong. Music is a mood-altering drug that people get addicted to because they want to feel a different way. You gave them a way to feel a way they liked. Now you've stopped giving it to them, and they're not rewarding you, just like a drug addict would not come to a drug dealer who's out of product. You are a drug dealer in a very nice way. I don't think we should demonize drug dealers as it is, but we don't need to get into my libertarian views on drug policy. Anywho, we have to remember, people do not come to you because they're, barring that you're like good at making personality videos or TikToks or Instagram content, or you're just so good looking that they're addicted to you. They're here because you're giving them a mood they'd rather feel. Just the same way as if you change your sound and you no longer get that feel, it is often hard to get people to stick around unless you've given them a more effective drug. Seeing music through any other prism is a mistake, and what you've done now is you've diminished your supply of this mood-altering drug, and you have to re-up your product to do it. There's not many ways around this aside from that. If you can tell a story that gets more people interested in it, or find a platform where you can get more new people into it, who then are talking to those people who were previously into it, and you're building relationships with new people. And now, I said this in an overcomplicated way, but let me put this in an easier way. One of the only ways that people ever do reignite their thing is, let's say they get plateaued up to a new thing. So let's say for some reason you become you get in a commercial, and then all these new people are hearing it, and then your old fans start hearing, talking to friends who were never into you before. They may revisit your music and re-up the relationship with it again. But that is really about it. We have to always remember the reason that the consistent, sustained promotion works is because you're continually giving people more supply to get high on.
All right. Does any of your content or advice change for people living outside the U.S.? And then I'll add another question from someone else. Would you say it's a good strategy to promote to cheaper markets, like countries where ads are cheaper?
The rules do not change when you're outside of the U.S., but there is some weird things like, yes, like Japan is a market, and Australia for that matter, where you're never going to really be the new artist that breaks unless a gatekeeper lets you in. America's music discovery market dictates what a lot of the rest of the world, not all of the rest of the world, but a lot of the rest of the world's music discovery happens from. As far as the ads thing go, I kind of got into this in the last video, and I will say it with the caveat that I still don't believe in buying ads for your fucking music, but just like I said, Latin America does some of the most music discovery. If your genres are popular in Latin America, yes, focusing on Latin America can be great. If you make EDM and you're not putting your ads in European countries, you're a fucking idiot. If you're going to spend advertising money, which yet again I don't think should be done for artists under 10,000 fans, if you are an EDM artist and not doing there, you're missing one of the largest markets you can do. There's tons of Latin American countries where hip hop literally can have their numbers propped up immensely through Latin America listens. Focusing on cities in Canada with urban music can be absolutely huge. Same thing with, here's a really funny thing. Let's call it outdated rock. Let's call it like you play, not like even a new version of new metal, like some like kind of outdated hard rock. If you target the 4 major cities in Canada, you can literally do some serious damage, especially with radio promotion, because those cities consume, and like I should say the suburbs around them consume an outrageous amount of outdated like Nickelback type shit. I don't get it, but I know it to be true from all the people I've talked to about it.
We got a couple more, Jesse.
Okay, yeah, I can do this for a few more minutes before I collapse.
What are some strategies for getting the most out of live performances for artists just getting started?
Live performances just getting started. Okay, yeah. One, you have to videotape yourself every single time. And when I say videotape yourself, I mean like if you are not begging a friend to hold the camera the whole time and review it, you're basically not learning from it. That is one of the main things that I think people really just totally miss, is that like you know what it looks like when a good live performance happens. You have no idea what you're doing on stage because you're not confident yet and you don't own it yet. You need to look back and learn what the reflection of yourself actually is. Two, within that, also diagnosing what it sounds like when you play in a different environment than what you practice in. You know, one of the most underestimated things I talk about that inexperienced performers have trouble with is that you're used to certain ways that you perform music. It takes a while before you get sea legs with headphones. It takes a while before you know how to hear yourself in good monitors or in-ears or however else that you're not used to. A funny thing for me, I worked so much on headphones during the pandemic to not awaken certain people in my household that when I'd hear music on speakers, it would actually sound weird to me because I'd only hear things on headphones ever. I hadn't turned on my Genelex in months at one point because I didn't want to disturb people. You need to get used to what it is like to hear music in a live environment, which is another reason that, like, you know, I do think that it's sometimes worth it at the start to take really, really terrible shows. Was there any aspect to that question I didn't answer?
No, you nailed it. And also,
Okay.
like, every comedian I like
Oh, yeah.
literally grabs like a tape recorder or has a camera and analyzes their set afterwards. I think that's a really good piece of advice. I like, and not many bands, especially newer bands, do that. Like, really, you can look awkward on stage really easily.
We've all seen it.
Any strategy on booking shows, getting notoriety in surrounding cities of your immediate area?
Yeah, I mean, my best advice on this is in Get More Fans, which is, I call it the cheeseburger franchise technique or something like that. Where, like, really what you're doing is you're moving, here's your city that you're in. You're going to the surrounding cities and then slowly making it bigger. But you're also concentrating on, can you put flyers up in that city? Can you record in stores, not so much a thing as much anymore. If you're gonna do Facebook ads, are you targeting that other city and the listeners in it? Are you repeatedly going back at a good frequency? You know, a good frequency for a DJ can be every month. A good frequency for a rock band could be every 1 to 3 months. But like slowly hitting those cities over and over again and making sure that your presence is wherever people would go and hang out for a show. So for example, like I talk a lot about this actually in Get More Fans at times, but like, you know, Nick and I live in Brooklyn and nearly everyone who listens to shitty, like, let's call it low production punk, all hangs out at about 7 to 10 different bars. If your stickers and flyers are in that area, you're gonna have a lot more notoriety and name recognition from just literally the hour it takes you to do that each time can be immense. In many small towns, all the skaters who may be coming to your show, if you play a certain type of music or whatever, they all can be found by simply going to that one skate park or that coffee house they hang out at and making a presence known. The biggest thing people forget is that strategically breaking down people to know who you are and be curious enough to listen to you and then decide if they're going to go out to see your show. And I think right now we are about to experience the greatest opportunity to build fan bases on a local level again because people are so thirsty to go out. I mean, shows I've seen here that would not have been sold out are already selling out 2 nights now because people are fucking ready. I mean, I was at a goddamn fucking dance party till 3 in the morning on Saturday because I was like, hell, I'm fucking ready to be out again. Making your presence known and making people see your name, whether that's stickers, flyers, or whatever, and then seeing that you're playing that local venue creates curiosity about you to the people who matter to build you a fan base early. Do not underestimate that if you took a little trip with, like, maybe you work some flyering into that date. I mean, you're going to be kind of a bad date, but you go to that city, then you go to the nice pizza place for dinner or whatever. But you do a little flyering on the way around. Whatever you got to do to work it into your life, make yourself a presence before you're playing in that town, after you're playing that town, and then regularly in that town. Take over one town at a time in a circle that just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and you can do. It's worked for a lot of people.
We got two more. That's
Two
cool.
more, yeah, that's great.
To piggyback on the sticker idea, we've literally had conversations about bands whose stickers are everywhere in New York City.
There's a couple that we point out regularly.
It works because we talk about them. I don't know what they sound like, but we definitely have had conversations.
Yep.
Tips on how to get out of the cycle of unpaid internships. There's no context with this, but I feel like it's a pretty good question.
So yeah, the big thing is one, spotting which internships and actually asking beforehand. If it is, there's a certain point where, like there's a lot more unpaid internships than anything else. But I will say this, and I don't want to make any accusation to this person. The majority of people who intern, and I say this as a person, I've probably literally had over 100 interns work for me in my time. And there's two poles that not a lot of people find the right thing in. Every manager, and the manager does not need to necessarily be that entitled, like the person who's in charge of that they will hire you at the end, is looking for one or the other of like two poles. One is, what could I be doing? How do I do this? I need help with this. And they're like, great, I'm so happy you did this. And the other is, shut the fuck up, get shit done, and don't fucking talk to me. And learning to know which of those two are and acting as effectively as you can on each of those things is a lot of what makes a difference in somebody wanting to hire you or not. I say this as somebody who I'm nice enough to always be like, hey, what's this thing? But I also am like on the side of, I'm like, if somebody takes a lot of initiative, I'm very happy that they've taken a lot of initiative. Now, the other thing I will say too is that everybody has preferences of like what is a good, fun hangout. Too many interns make themselves the thing that like, I should be getting a lot out of this. Really, everybody I hire, I mean, one of the reasons Nick does work for me is because I like being in a room with Nick. Brian, who I work with on records, who co-produces them with me, I had a lot of people who are options. Brian's somebody I like hanging out with every day. You making things about yourself and making it that they owe you knowledge does not make you somebody people want to hang out with. That comes with time and with things. I think a lot of interns like that. Is that fair? Fuck no. You're working for free for somebody. You should be allowed to ask things, but life isn't fair, and I've seen that be a thing that has held a lot of people back, and having the mindset of like, just being somebody who's enjoyable to be in the room with and giving that person a good experience is often what gets the job.
All right, let's go for the last question.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have strong opinions about this.
When
should I put on my big boy pants and set up a website? Is it crucial?
I don't think websites are big boy pants. Websites are a thing you do for a handful of reasons. One, some people's SEO is terrible and we need to get a landing page so people can find what they need to find. I wish I remember what the person was. It was like so funny. I was, I like had this artist write me the other day and I like had to look them up beforehand. And like I could not find them because their name was absolutely ungoogleable. And I was like, this is the exact person who needs a fucking website. And so the big thing is like, first, let's say you're having a hard time going up Google. Then yes, you absolutely need a website. The only other reason you need a website after that is if you are doing marketing or you are having enough demand for yourself that you need to use a website to get things done to make fans do the behaviors you'd like them to do. Now, that brings me to like what I do for websites. So for example, I think I've mentioned this before. I do not manage active touring bands that are trying to be on this end. But I do work with some bands who are estates in that they're broken up and we need to get their fans to do certain things that we want, AKA buy merch. I make their websites on Shopify because Shopify is amazing at SEO, it's amazingly easy to use, and it gets the fastest way to get the fan to do what we want, which is buy merchandise from us. Your website should have a goal at all times, and you should send people to that goal. If you do not have a goal in marketing that a website's going to enhance, you do not need that website. But some of you are like, well, I want to tell potential managers and A&R my story. That's what YouTube, that's what Instagram, and that's what Spotify are for. You can tell your story very effectively in behind the scenes videos. I was just talking to a friend who wants to make a better impression on the music business. And it's like, well, you got a lot of personality, start making some personality videos on YouTube. In fact, I give this advice on consults all the time. So that is my very angry way to wrap that answer up. Nick, did you have something to say about it?
I think that the merch idea is a very good idea for a website. I think they're almost obsolete when it comes to like smaller bands personally. Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree.
But it's for SEO, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you have a band like the band Health. Health is the worst thing to Google.
I know.
And that's just my opinion. If you have a very basic band name, you're probably gonna need it for SEO. Otherwise, if you have less than like 15,000 monthly listeners, I don't think you need it.
I think I would even go as far to like 50,000 because most people don't do it. Okay, here's what I say. If you enjoyed us doing this, we'll do it more if you comment below and give it hearts and tell us in the Discords. Join the Discord. There's a link in the forum, and we'll put a link in the description for the Discord. And thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully we'll do more of this since we have this awesome studio with the view of the worst neighborhood in all of New York City. Thank you.